So it's going to be another episode where I try to bring over people whom I believe have left an impact into other people's lives, and that speaks to myself first and foremost. I've known the speaker for some time now, and the speaker has proved a couple of things to me, whether they know it or not. And this is one of the main reasons why I chose them to be here in AE Talks, where we just have casual conversations about how has life been treating them so far, and what are the takeaways that they have carried with them so that they could possibly share them with you. And hopefully, if a sentence or a story or an incident that has happened in their lives can spark something in you, I guess that will be a job well done. So, without any further ado, I would like to introduce Hamza Halabi, a very dear friend of mine, and a person whom I believe is going to be sharing some inspirational stories. I personally can't wait to hear them out. Last time we had a conversation, Hamza, was 5 years ago or 4 years ago. I'm speaking like a real conversation, like the heart to heart kind of conversation. So, first off, I'd like to say thank you for coming. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I think it's been 4 years since we physically met. Just maybe to give some background to people watching, we were colleagues back at uni, which was like what, 5, 6, 7 years ago now. I think it's been 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
That's 7 years, 2018,
Like we
right?
started maybe 8 years ago, finished 5 years ago. Well, it's been a journey, I would say. Like the journey we had at uni, I would say we went through multiple phases, all of us. But nevertheless, it's been life changing for all of us. Quite inspirational, I'd say. I think you would agree as well.
I would 100%. And this is actually what takes me to, or may possibly helps me segue right into the nitty gritty details, as they say. I'm so excited to start off or fire off this episode with this question. I know where you came from. So you came from a very interesting background. You were a top performer at your high school. You were a person who would do their due diligence. You were a person who would achieve very high grades. You were coded or counted as a high achiever. And then all of a sudden, you decided to hop into the university career or university lifestyle, and you decided to take on certain courses. I remember the very first course you decided to take on was civil engineering. And God knows what you're doing right now. I already know, but I'm going to let you unravel or unpack this. So, being a top performing student to a person who lost his footing, as you say, during university years, which we deem to say are very important years in shaping who you are. And I'm quite sure you'd agree with me on that. So, I really want to know, how did that go? Walk us through the process all the way from Hamza being a high performing student at high school to Hamza graduating with X major from the University of Nottingham.
Yeah, first of all, like you said, like just to give a brief background on who I am, and I think multiple people who could be watching right now, especially from that uni phase, would not know this about me. But yeah, like ever since I was a kid, like during primary school, high school, up until I did the IGCSEs, British system. So, I mean, I've always liked education. Studying is something I really loved. I loved knowledge. I loved I loved scoring high grades. Like it's something that used to bring me lots of pleasure. And yeah, like I'm not gonna go so far back in history to like primary school, but like the last 3 years of my school, where I took the A levels and O levels, I did very well. Like I scored really high. Sometimes it's like hundreds and some A levels, and it's like the peak of my educational career, I would say. Is there something such as an educational career? I don't know. But yeah, it was my top performing phase, at least in my life educationally. So, and also coming from a Middle Eastern background, like I don't want to say the stereotype of everybody has to be either an engineer or a doctor when it comes to Arab people or the Middle East. But the fact was that my dad was an engineer, and I've always liked seeing what he does. You don't see lots of different like fields or careers. Usually someone just looks at what their dad does, and it's the first thing that like just faces you directly. So this is what you know best. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm good at some specific subjects like maths, physics. They were my favorite, so might as well follow that path as well that my dad followed and do civil engineering. So I've always known that I was gonna do civil engineering ever since like grade 8 or 9. It's not something I decided by grade 12, for example. So I finished, I was done with school, and then I started uni. I started as a civil engineer. And then I would say this is where the shock kind of started, because I started doing the courses. I started feeling like I'm not really following what the like professors would say, what they would explain. And then when it comes to actual, I don't know, like quizzes, exams, I would start performing really bad. Like I would score bad grades, and like really bad grades, sometimes like 40, 50%. And it's something I'm not used to. Like to get something below 90%, this is like, it's a shocker. So like two things happened at that point. First thing was like obviously knowing that this is not for me, and the second point was that it kind of depresses you. So especially when your family knows you as a person who is a high achiever, and all of a sudden you're scoring these really terrible grades, and then they might be thinking that like, what is he doing exactly in uni? Like, is it because of some bad friends that he has, or is he actually not studying that well? So something must have gone wrong. Like, but the reality was, I actually did not like what I was doing. Like the civil engineering was just not for me. Like, to give you the most summarized version, I just did not like it. And at that point, it was either that I'm gonna start failing and then like repeating years and doing it all over again and like wasting years of my life, or I actually have to start looking into something else. Like, obviously this wasn't for me, and at that point it wasn't too late to just switch to something else.
If I may, there's a very interesting point you just shared here, and I believe could really resonate with a lot of people, which is the fact that you got not so good grades or bad grades, if I may say, was an indicator to you that civil engineering is not for you. Was grades the only parameter that you took into consideration? So assuming that that you achieved well. So would that change the trajectory of choosing what you think you're born to pursue? Or was there some other parameters that made you feel, yeah, not just grades, it's not for me? What was that like?
It's a good question. To be honest, no, it's not just grades. Even if my grades were acceptable, still when I went through lectures, what I was studying, actually the entire, like, because when you do the first year of civil engineering, it's generalized. It's not like focused on civil engineering, but they try to give you a foundational basis of lots of different things like structural engineering, mechanics, hydraulics, lots of different things for you to maybe specialize later on. So it's like we're giving you the brief idea of multiple different fields within engineering, and then you will specialize in like the civil engineering field. So like I would remember during lectures, I wouldn't like what I was like, what I was here, what I was attending, like the actual material. I just did not like it. It did not resonate with me. I didn't feel like I was excited about like the next lecture or the material that I was studying. And the reason I say excited about that, because the reason, like back at school, when you study something, a subject like math or physics, you would actually like it. Like if you don't like it, you wouldn't score high grades. Like for me, scoring high grades is also like dietary proportional with actually you liking what you're studying. You like the subject. I used to love math, for example. And this is why I scored high at it. It's not just, this is like a differentiator as well between when you do something like a British system, like actual, like when you get actual knowledge, as opposed to doing like national systems where you know how it is. You just need to study, 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 study. Even if you don't like the subject, you can still score high grades, but it's because you memorize lots of that knowledge. So you fill your brain with knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Even if you don't actually understand it, but you just memorize it, the fact that you memorized it and you just splashed everything into the exam in national systems, it makes you score high grades. And it gives you the illusion that I scored high grades, so it means that I'm a good person. Like I'm really good at what I do. And then you go to some uni, and then you start, your university journey. But in British or even American systems, if you actually don't like the subject, you'll find it kind of difficult to memorize something and just score high grades in exams. It doesn't work that way. You really needed to understand something like math, understand something like physics in order for you to study and actually score high grades. So given what I just explained, when I went to uni and I started taking lectures in like civil engineering and multiple different things, I just did not like the actual lecture. I did not like the material. I did not like the syllabus. And this automatically led to me not being motivated to actually study. So like when I know there is a test and there is an exam, nothing motivates me to study. So sometimes I used to actually go into exams knowing that I haven't actually studied one word, and I knew that I was going to score bad. This is the level that it reached. So I did not study, and I went into the exam knowing that I'm gonna score bad. So this was
Was
like
that
the.
type of revenge?
What do you mean?
Was that some type of internal conflict where you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to study and I would still go to university, I would still go to my test, and I know I'm going to feel bad because I haven't studied and I'm going to get a bad score. So you keep on getting into this very ever ending loop where you don't study, you get a bad grade, you get depressed, you don't study, you get bad. So that's the loop I'm talking about. Like you're revenging against yourself, kind of a thing. That's the level you're talking about.
Actually, it has nothing to do with revenge, but I just knew that I don't know, just naturally did not come to me. Like I did not feel like studying. You like one of the biggest enemies that we usually have during university, like during our uni journeys, is procrastination. So like you'd know you would have an exam like in 3 days, but I'd be like, okay, I have time. I'll study tomorrow. Then the next day comes, I'll be like, I still have one day up until you have like just like one night before the exam, and at that point I would try to start studying, but I'd find that the material is way too much, and this is when you know that that's it, you're screwed, there is no point. If it was a subject that I was actually interested in, I wouldn't have procrastinated. I would have been actually excited and motivated about studying, because it's within my character that I like scoring high grades. I mean, who doesn't? It gives you a sense of achievement, and it gives you pleasure when you just, you're an high achiever. So this is what I felt. Yeah, like 1 year of civil engineering passed. I did not fail. Like I still passed, but I still felt like it's not for me. Especially that if I'm gonna reach a point where I graduate as a civil engineer, would this be it? Like the next 40, 50 years of my life, I'm just doing something based on, a degree that I never even liked. So if this is how it was during the educational phase, how would it be during the work experience phase? Especially that I knew from a lot of people around me that it is extremely difficult to be a civil engineer in the world out there. It's not that easy. You have to start very small for like 5, 6, 7 years. And then even after that, it doesn't really pay that much at that point. So for me, this was also a negative factor. It was also a demotivating factor. The fact that, am I gonna do all of this in order to still reach a point where I'm not achieving much? Because there was an overabundance, like there was a saturated market of civil engineers, especially in the Middle East. Everybody's a civil engineer because of the idea of a doctor or a civil engineer. So it's a saturated market. You have like tens of thousands of people, graduates every year. Okay, well, what are you gonna actually staff these people? You don't have open opportunities or positions. So it leads to a point where you have to accept something really, really low in terms of pay or in terms of position as well, and stay in such a position for a really long time. So it's like nothing about it made sense to me. So I never liked the syllabus. I never liked the future aspects of such a job, especially in my region. I just never liked it. Maybe in the West it could have been different. Maybe it could have been more prestigious to be a civil engineer in the Western countries. But in the Middle East, where I was when I first started civil, it just never made sense to me.
This takes me to this point where, okay, I want to take away from what you just said a metric or an understanding where I can pass down to people who are listening to us right now, which is, how do I know if whatever it is I'm subscribed to or signed up to in uni as a major is overly saturated or not? Because I want to be the next Hamza, or I want to be even better or just as close, and I want to make sure I am taking calculated risk in order to make sure I have a decent chance of a good position, not so much competition. How did you wrap your head around that, whatever it is that you do now, which is still a secret, not a lot of people know, to what you
Deal with Coleman like a bit. Gonna get
yeah,
support.
to what you expected yourself to be as a civil engineer? What's the metric?
Look, to be honest, I mean, it wasn't that difficult. Again, going back to the point that growing up in an environment like in the Middle East, like I grew up in Egypt, you know this. So in Egypt, ever since you're at school, and even when you switch and you go to uni after school, you know that everybody around you wants to do engineering. It's not a secret. Like you don't need to go do a market research in order to discover such a fact. Everybody wants to be an engineer. Everybody wants to do a doctor, to the point that it's within families. It's like my son will either be a doctor or an engineer, and if he doesn't, if they don't end up doing that, it's like a big disgrace to the family. It's like, what, you wanna do something else? Management? What is management? Or like business? What? Like you're a failure. So this is the stereotype in the Middle East. I think, to be honest, I think it's still the way it is today as well. Like this is how it is today, even. So when everybody literally just wants to do engineering or be a doctor, you know that the market eventually is saturated with engineers. So I didn't have to do like an online research in order to actually find real KPIs and metrics to tell me how saturated the market was.
Honestly, the way you handled this question was a very nice introduction to the very coming question, which happens to be, here we go. How did you handle the stigma around your culture with changing a major given your age, given how long your family has invested in uni for you to just explore what you think you're born to pursue? With all the stigma, we all know it's not difficult, but I want you to talk about it as a person who lived the experience. How did you manage that stigma to take that leap of faith to do what you're doing right now?
Look, there are multiple aspects to this. To be honest, like I'm gonna formulate it in like one answer. But first of all, something that is well known within the Middle East again is that in order for if someone wants his son to get a good education, the first thing they would think about is sending your son outside. It's never in our region because the educational system, our universities, to be honest, they you cannot compare them to unis outside, and it's well known. Everybody who wants a good education for his kid, they would send them outside, like to Europe, this is why we used to study in like American systems or British systems as well. So like you wouldn't put your son in to study IGCSEs or SAT like American system only for him to join like a uni in Egypt, like a governmental uni. That would be like a waste of the private schools that we had, or like the amount of money that you paid in private schooling. So one thing that happened is that when I started my first year of civil, I was still actually in Egypt. I wasn't outside. So two things happened here. First, the fact that I did not like civil engineering. Second thing, the fact that I scored really low grades, which affected my mood a lot because there was an internal conflict going in my head, which was, is it because I did not like civil engineering, or was it actually because the level at uni is much higher than school and I actually wasn't that good after all? Like maybe school was easy, maybe, and you start comparing yourself to other people, and you know, like people who would score high grades. It's like it's not that easy. Like when you see people around you, maybe people doing good, and then you know how you were during school and how it is right now in uni, scoring like the bad grades. This kind of internal conflict started happening in my head. So was I the person? Was I the culprit? Was I that bad? Or was it actually the fact that I did not like what I was studying? Or was it the third reason, the fact that maybe the educational system within like the uni that I was at in Egypt wasn't that good? So when I decided that this is not for me, this is when my dad, who has had like a major, he was like my major benefactor in my life, he decided to send me outside. It's like, okay, you know, in order for you to achieve something, to get some good education, I have to send you outside. And this is where the journey started. And when we went to Malaysia, to the University of Nottingham, this is where we met. This was the start of a totally different phase in my life. So there, funny enough, when I went there, I was still doing civil engineering. I did not switch. This is not where the switch happened. This was trying to solve the first question, which is, was it the fact that the educational system was bad? So I went outside, I did civil engineering there. I got my answer, not in a good way, where I wasted another year realizing that no, it is civil engineering that I do not like. So this was the problem, this was the issue. At some point during that course, during the civil engineering first year in the University of Nottingham, there were side courses that had to do with programming. So like C programming was one of the courses that we were taking on the side. And funny enough, it opened up something new in my head because I really loved it. And it's been like a long time since I loved something, but programming, especially the C programming that we were taking, is something that I really enjoyed. I found that I'm good at it, although it had nothing to do with civil engineering. But then it maybe sparked something in my head is that no, it's actually not uni that is difficult. I was doing the wrong thing. It just wasn't for me. Like I still have it in me. I can still score good grades, but I was in the wrong field. This is when I knew. But at that point, especially the fact that I wasted 1 year in Egypt, and then this is another year that I wasted over there, this is where it became really, really, really tough. So like, how can I open up such a conversation with my dad, for example, who's already paying loads of money? Every international student knows that it's really, really expensive for you to study outside. For locals, they don't know about this. People in the West, for them, it's fine. Some of them have free education. But for us, trying to seek education outside in like prestigious unis, it's extremely expensive. So I had two options. Like either I continue doing the civil engineering just because I cannot open up such a conversation and just say that I need to once again start from scratch and I wasted 2 years of my life and this is just not for me and you have to pay again for another extra year. Or I just, continue doing what I'm doing, but risk the fact that when I graduate, I really have no idea how my career would look like. Or if I'm even gonna graduate on time, because who knows, maybe I would like fail the final year or something. I wasn't really interested in civil engineering. So at that point, I took this Western ideology, which is follow your passion. So I was like, okay, let me follow my passion. It's fine. I'm gonna lose a year. It doesn't matter. I spoke about this to my dad, and my dad was very, very, very. Like, he welcomed the idea. He was very responsive. He always wanted the best for me. He never saw money as a problem, even if he had to pay every single dime that he had. This is also like a highlight that I have to mention here. Like the backbone that supported me was very, very, very strong. I would say. Like
Sturdy.
yeah, very sturdy. He was really supportive. My dad, I owe him lots of my success and like the person I am today was, all it's like a domino effect, Like, yeah, I did very well in my career up until today, but where did it all start? It's from that point in history where he was like very responsive and he was like, fine, just I want the best for you. Do what you think is the best for you. Don't think about the fact that you're gonna lose a year. Don't think about the fact that this is costing a lot of money. Just do it.
Hamza, I love how your father was very supportive in this very crucial incident. It's like more of an inflection point in your life. I want you to think with me in reverse or the complete opposite. What if your father wasn't the father you know he is today? What do you think would have happened? Because not a lot of people who would be following you and listening to your story have supportive families, and you would know
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get your point.
How strong do you think that would have affected your career trajectory, if I may say?
To be honest, I think I would be sitting at home right now. Like
Wow.
I wouldn't be doing civil engineering for sure. Maybe the scenario would be that I would graduate, but maybe I would lose like 2, 3 years. Maybe I would fail some years in civil engineering, but eventually I will graduate. However, I'm just gonna park this degree on the side. I wouldn't think that I'll be successful in the civil engineering workforce out there. Like once you enter the workforce, and I would just sit at home. I would waste a lot of time at home trying to look for something else to do. And eventually, of course, like I land some job, but not related to my field, job that requires like skillful labor, I would say, or to just be something basic, but not something that would eventually make you, like move out, open your own house, and you know what I mean, yeah, stuff like that. So I think, yeah, I think I would just be sitting at home looking for anything else to do, but there would be like my potential would be limited. There would be like a ceiling that I would never exceed. Like that would be the top. I would never go higher than that. Maybe work at some shawarma place. Use
Honestly
my Halabi
speaking,
name.
I can't hold it any further or any longer, if I may say. The person everyone's listening to their story happens to be a well suited manager at a reputable company in the United Arab Emirates at the moment. And I say this with absolute pride because I know the person himself and I know what he's been through and I live days in, days out, let alone that we were sharing the same condominium for a couple of years. Why did I burn this right now? And why am I on it? Why do I want to segue to this area is if you have a minute to send a message to fathers, what would you tell them? Who maybe their children are right now at the point where they're being sent off to uni, or a person or one of their children is not performing very well, or is not opening up as they should be. If in 1 minute, what would you tell fathers today, or parents generally?
To be honest, I would tell them you don't really know more than your son. This the stereotype of the fact that you as a father would always know more than your son. I disagree with. And at the end of the day, especially in such a case, maybe your son would be studying outside. They would be living like in their own environment, seeing different things. studying their own, like they're going through their degree and career. And you as a dad, you also have your own life that you went through, you have your own past that you went through, and you're also focused on like one career on, or one path that you went through. It doesn't have to always be the same with your son. Your son doesn't have to be a copy, like a carbon copy of yourself as a dad. Yes, you do. Yes, you've seen a lot in the past, so maybe you can give some wisdom to your son. It's like, I'm not saying a dad shouldn't do this. Of course, you should sit with your son and give them your point of view as a dad and give them some word of advice and wisdom, but do not be controlling. Do not say, no, at the end of the day, it's my decision, not yours, because I know and you don't. So you have to just follow what I say because I know what's better for you. This thing of I know what's better for you, I always disagree with, to be honest. I would say give your son the space to discover and have a discussion. It's a two-way street. Like, have a discussion with your son. Try to understand, why does your son think that maybe this particular thing, he thinks that it's better for him. Maybe it would make sense to you as a dad as well. And at the end of the day, think about the 10 years down the line, like how this might affect your son and the future overall as well.
Wow, thank you. Seriously, that would be a highlight in one of the shorts that we're going to be uploading very very soon. I really like the way you put it all together, specifically with a Middle Eastern background, where the famous quote goes, "I know, you don't. I lived more than you did." But in very 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 very, how do I put this in words? In way too many frequent cases, that's not necessarily true. So I want to circle back again to.
Sorry, just to add something, like, unfortunately, when you look at the Western culture, this is always not the case. Like, you'd know that parents would listen to their sons, they would give them space. And I don't know, maybe if that could be the reason for them to be more successful or like choose their own passion or path. And why we keep comparing ourselves that much to Western people and to see their success. Maybe that's the reason, but there is a shift that is happening nowadays. So the older generation of fathers used to have like this strict mentality of like, I know, you should do what I say. But nowadays, when you look at the newer generations of people, this mentality is starting to shift. Sometimes the shift is too bad. Like, it's like, I'm gonna stick to the Western mentality 100%. Which makes you lose some values that we have in the Middle East. Sometimes you even lose Islamic values, I would say, just because I want to stick to what the West does too much. So this is where I see that it's a balance, really. Take what's good. You don't have to
It's
take
like
it all. Yeah, yeah,
so you moderation. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I'm quite sure. And once again, circling back to Hamza, the person who dropped out of the university in Egypt, then moved to Malaysia with a fresh new start. Let's do this. I'm quite sure this is going to be a new opportunity for me. And fast forward a year, no, this is not what I'm going to pursue. So I do a second dropout, and now I'm introduced to a course in computer science. I'm quite sure. So far you brought two characters. You're the main character and your father being your support system. But how did you deal with the naysayers? How did you deal with the people around you while you were taking that leap of faith? Specifically, I know that from an age perspective, you weren't their age, you were older. So that even adds a lot more pressure. How did you navigate that? That is very important for
This
today's
was
youth.
honestly the single most difficult challenge that I went through in my past. People around you, because no one would spare you of judgment. People would be judgmental a lot. You would start seeing everybody around you, especially my classmates, being 2 or 3 years younger than myself. So again, it would always make you think within yourselves once again, like, am I a failure? Were they better than me? Like, what went wrong in my life that led me to where I am today? So this battle that always happens inside your head takes a toll at you. To be honest, I'm not gonna deny, and especially I would say the people you surround yourself with, because you could either surround yourself with a group of friends or people that would be supportive, or you would surround yourself with people that would just make fun of you, be very judgmental, which again would take a toll, like, at your mental health, I would say. Now, for me, this was always a battle that I had to go through every single day. Like, I don't have to tell people that this is what I've been feeling, but it's just like Every time you go to sleep, you have to think about this. It's like, I am very late. I'm 2 or 3 years late. There is a lot of pressure on me because, again, I made my dad pay twice or 3 times more than the others. And you start calculating as well this like age thing. It's like, okay, now I'm going to graduate. I'm going to be 25, 26, while others might have graduated at 23, 22. So, and that difference in age, that extra 4 years that they get, it might make them reach a point that is much higher than the point that I'm gonna reach. So, like, I started think. This is one thing that I always used to think about every time, like, I go to bed. It's like, by the time I'm 30, what can I possibly achieve by the time I'm 30? If I'm going to graduate at like 26 or 27 years old, what am I going to achieve? And then you start convincing yourself, you try to convince yourself that age is a number. It really doesn't matter. Some people, everybody has a path. Some people might have an easier path. Some people might have been very clear about what they wanted to study, so everything was like easy for them. And some other people might even be worse than my case. This is what I also had to convince myself with, that at any point it could have always been worse. Like, why am I comparing myself to the people who had it better than I did, and I'm forgetting about the people who might have had it way worse than what I was having? Because at the end of the day, despite everything, despite the amount of years that I lost, despite the amount of money that my dad paid, for example, extra, I still had a blessing that that like many other people maybe in the Middle East did not have. Some people would not have the blessing of being sent outside for education. Some people wouldn't even study in a uni. So still you always had, like, you had to remind yourself that what you have is still a blessing. Yes, you're not going to be the best out there on the earth. Many people might be better than you. Lots of people might be even worse than you. So you just have to convince yourself that you have your own path. So this is why when I like when I was looking for a suggestion for like an episode name, I chose the ignore the noise, because honestly, this is what you have to focus on. This is just focus on yourself, your own path. Everything that you keep hearing, like from right and left and around you, and the people being judgmental, people making fun of you, this is noise that you really have to ignore. If you allow yourself to be affected by that noise, then that's it, you're destroyed. So to be honest, you need some kind of a strong like mental fortitude as well, like during this along this journey and along this path. Which brings me to the point of, like, when everybody around you or surrounding you were judgmental or like being bad people, because I had a lot of such people at uni. Bad circle of friends, people that are judgmental, that would make fun of you. But again, I feel like for me, people might make fun of that, but to be honest, I would have to mention it because this was the fact for me. For me, there was always a strong connection between myself and God. I felt like at every single step of my way, even when I lost the way, even when I did bad at uni, when I lost years, when I had a bad circle of friends, sometimes I surrounded myself by bad people. I don't know. Sometimes it feels more exciting during uni than having a good group of friends for some reason. I know something about it makes it appealing. Maybe you want to try things like during uni. But at every step of the way, I felt like one connection that I never lost was this connection that I had with God, that always brought me back into the right path, even when I messed up a lot. It always brought me back to the right path for some reason. Even when I reached points in my life where I disconnected myself from I don't want to make this about religion, but there was a long period where I disconnected myself with everything religiously. But I feel like God never gave up on me. Like, even if I was bad, he would always send me signals. I would
Okay.
always be honest, it was very, very vivid for me. Like, the signals would be very apparent. I don't know why, but I would see some kind. It's like maybe it's the mercy of God that we believe in. Like, God would never abandon you. So at many points in my career, or like in my bad phases, whenever you feel the worst, or whenever you feel the most like down and beaten up, who's the only person that is left that who would always just be there for you and listen to you even more than your family? It's God. God was always there. So to be honest, like thankfully, like really thank God that I always felt that connection and signals along the way. But this was the biggest factor of what made me who I am today. If I had lost the way completely, I always knew that at some point God would, move me back into the right path and the right direction. So this connection, this relationship between me and God, even if I sometimes abandoned it completely, would always bring me back into the right path.
Hamza, that's quite heavy to digest, but I really want to make sure that we get the most out of this. So just to summarize what you were saying, as a quick sum up, you brought about skills such as focus, mental fortitude, and your relationship with God. If I were to ask you, or if you were to go back to uni right now, and you would meet sophomores, you would meet freshmen, you would meet juniors who may be facing the same issue and who are reaching out for advice, what's one skill set that you would tell them to focus on that would help them navigate their journey after what you've been through?
It's not really a skill set, but
A mindset, probably.
it's a mindset. Yeah, not a skill set, to be honest. It's a mindset. So the mindset I wish I had since day one is the fact that whatever people say does not define you at all. Like you cannot define yourself by what people say. What people say is just their opinion. Like there are seven, when you think about it on a high level, there are like 7, 8 billion people out there. Everybody has a mindset. It's not like what everybody says is like the absolute truth and it's what defines you as a person. Because why would I define myself, or why would I change any decision or change my path because of maybe some person out of the 7 or 8 billion that exist out there said something about me or expressed their opinion about me or like was judgmental about me? This is just one person. So this is the mindset that I did not have since day one, because again, like when you're young, you're still shaping your brain and like you're growing up around people, especially when it's a new environment, like when you travel outside and you start seeing a lot of diversity, diverse, different people, bad people, good people, religious people, atheists. You meet lots of diversity. Like, you know how it was in that uni out there, the most diverse place ever.
Absolutely.
So what I wish I had since day one is this strong mental fortitude, or this mentality or understanding that let me just do what I want. This is my own path. No one
Mm.
defines what I do, and no one would change anything about what I should do. Again, going back to the point that ignore the noise. Like you have a tunnel, you're focused on it, ignore the noise.
Noise cancellation.
By the way, yeah, funny enough, despite everything I'm saying right now about what I wish I had since day one, if you ask me right now, like, would you change anything about this entire journey I had during the past? No, I would not change it.
That's my question. Question. No, wait. Don't answer. Don't answer. That's my coming question. Looking back at your so-called academic failure, do you think it was necessary to be happening so that I can be speaking to the person I'm speaking to today?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you believe in that?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
You just want to make sure it's not, cheesy terms or like I had to go through the hardships and what have you. Do you truly believe that?
Of course, absolutely. Well, 1 million%. To be honest, if I go back in history, back to my younger self who just finished school and I'm still fresh and I did not lose any year, and then
Mm.
everything went perfectly. I did civil engineering. I loved it. I finished it in 4 years, and I was like the perfect person. Everything just went right. I'm quite sure 100% I would not have the knowledge I have today. I would not have the mental fortitude I have today. I wouldn't have the life skills that I have today as well, the relationship with God that I have today. There are so many things that you build along the way, other than the fact that you just had some education and some work experience and work career. There are so many things on the side that would help you in the next multiple years of your life. Like life is a journey. It's not just about this some education that I had at school or the education I had at uni. So again, absolutely, I would not change a thing. Everything that I did wrong in the past, every year that I lost, every bad friend that I had, every sin that I committed, it shaped who I am today.
Well, I love the transparency. I mean, seriously, people who are at forks or different forks in their life, if they were to listen to this very deeply and just internalize what's being said, I truly think they would take a lot away. And that's why I really want to make sure it's a full-fledged episode. I want to jump to the person I'm speaking to now. So all what we've been talking about so far is the past. Who's Hamza today? What do you do? And how are you shaping tomorrow to become a better place for us? That's a question I insist to say.
All right, the good part finally. Towards the final year of my uni, when I was like when I switched and when I was studying computer science, it was that phase when like AI was becoming a hype. Like it was already something, but AI advances very, very, very rapidly. Like you're seeing how it is today as well. Ever since like 3 years ago when generative AI even became a thing, and people started learning about ChatGPT and all of these different products and applications, AI is the only thing nowadays, the only field that advances almost every single hour. Every single hour you have something new. So towards the final year of what I was studying, like in computer science, I started learning about this machine learning, data science, AI. To be honest, what made it very appealing is the fact that when you go and check like careers and jobs, you'd find that data scientists are the highest paid, and data science is the overall term or like title that like encompasses like AI and machine learning and so on and so forth. So to be honest, it wasn't something that we were learning during uni. So it wasn't something that I learned during my computer science course. In fact, our computer science course in the uni that we were in was very outdated. The things that they used to teach you were outdated. So if I have to also say like what I'm doing today in the workforce out there has nothing to do with what I studied even back in uni. Like maybe 2-3% of it, because computer science is a general field. Data science or AI or like generative AI like is a specialty within that. Like of course it's computer science at the very like highest level, but it's a very specialized field or domain within that as well. Again, going back to that point, so towards the end, the final years of me studying computer science, I started seeing, I started hearing about machine learning, about AI, about data science. So I was like, okay, you know what? When I graduate, this is what I want to do. Because also towards the final year, I was thinking, okay, when I graduate as a computer scientist, what would be the job that I should be looking for? Like, is it software engineering? Am I going to go into research and theory and that kind of stuff. So I was looking towards the final year. So this is one of the things that like popped up. It was it was one of the highest paying jobs. It was a very hot topic, machine learning. And, a shout out here as well to one of my very old friends. His name is Omar Hussein.
Oh yeah, I know.
Omar Saeed.
Is
So
there?
Omar used to always give me a headache about machine learning. So I was
Yeah, I
doing
remember.
the
I
science
do
thing.
remember.
I was like, man, why don't you look at machine learning, man? Machine learning, machine learning, machine. I was like, man, no, خلاص, يعني, okay, I get the point. I don't want to do that. But then when I started saying it, I took one course online on Udemy. I took a machine learning course. I started learning about Python as well as a language that they don't even teach you at uni, at least in our computer
Okay.
science course. So I did Python. I absolutely loved it. This was my thing. Python is the programming language that I love. From that point, I went into learning about machine learning because machine learning is like 80, 90% using Python. So it's like the main language. There is R as well, but Python is the main one. So I finally listened to the guy. I was like, okay, let me check out this machine learning thing. And again, I loved it. It was really fun. I felt smart doing it. I felt that I'm really good at it as well when I studied it. So when I graduated, this is the field, this is the job that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be a data scientist. So I graduated. I went back to Istanbul. This is where my family was. They moved out of Egypt. And I think within like 2 or 3 months, I applied to my first job. And this is the job where I am today. It's my first and still my current job, which is a data scientist at my current company, Artefact. It's a French based company for data and AI consultancy. So, and I'm currently in Dubai. So, like, ever since I started, I relocated to Dubai and I started as an intern. It was very difficult at first because, like the pay was very bad. Dubai is a very expensive city to be in. It was finally the time where I felt this is the time where I can prove everybody wrong. Everybody who thought that uni is what shapes you, is the thing that defines if you're smart or not. Although, to be honest, I have my own personal opinion about universities, especially in the field of data science or AI nowadays. I feel like you don't need a university degree. You do not need to study AI at a university.
Like
Instead of
Hamza.
spending 3-4 years in a uni, today you can spend 1 year online studying everything that you need about AI and still be better than many people who just graduated learning AI at universities. That's my own personal opinion. It's a waste of money, waste of years. But again, I don't want to be like a very biased person. This is like, I'm especially just talking about AI and
Mm.
data science. I cannot tell a doctor that you do not need to study medicine at the university. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm just speaking about this particular field. I feel like you do not need a degree. The reason why people get a degree for that field is because it acts as a passport for you to get the job. Companies would ask you,
Okay.
where is your degree? I cannot say I did not get a degree. I took an online course. Although I might be better than people who have a degree, and to be honest, I've seen it nowadays. So today, 4 years after when I reached like the senior manager position, I've conducted so far more than 100 interviews because I interview people for positions of data science. I've seen people with masters from the US. I've seen people with PhDs who still don't even know like 5 or 10% of some people who just have a bachelor degree, like colleagues with me within the workforce itself. So it's really not a factor. I started in every interview, I would ignore all the education that they had and just simply focus on the skill sets. Like, do you know it? Like, you either know it or you don't know it. I would ask you some questions, be like very technical in the interview, and it would have nothing to do with your educational background.
Wow. So this is a very, very, very good point because seeing the
I feel
person
like I
you
went
are,
really deep. Let me take a.
I love it because it's becoming a lot more practical now for people, specifically that AI is becoming such a hot topic. And you know how it's going just day in, day out. It's rapidly developing. And a lot of people today would like to snatch onto this bandwagon and say, hey, I'm going to do AI. AI is the future. AI is a boom. AI is a bust. So many different debates about what AI is. And this takes me to this very important question. If someone listening to us right now wants to enter the AI world without a formal degree, and a person like you, a senior manager at a French-based company in Dubai, knowing what you know, what would you advise them to do? Where should they start?
Without a formal degree,
Yeah.
to be honest, this is the issue in the system out there. So any company, like all the companies that I know within the region that I work in, which is the Gulf region, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, no company would hire you if you don't have a degree or a bachelor's degree. This is not gonna happen. Although it has nothing to do with how successful you're gonna be in the company. I still believe that if someone has no degree and I interviewed that person and I found that they have the knowledge and they answered everything right and they have like the right mindset, I believe they can be very, very, very successful. So maybe a change in the system should happen, and interviews should be more about the actual knowledge that you have and not the piece of paper that says that you have the knowledge, because it doesn't make sense. It's not the piece of paper that would say I have the knowledge. It's about you interviewing me and knowing that I do have the knowledge. This is what matters. So as a piece of advice, I cannot say that you're gonna be hired without a degree. Unfortunately, you do need one. But whatever you're gonna learn during uni, to be honest, even if you did bad in uni, and you feel like because you did bad in uni, you're gonna be bad after you graduate and you're not gonna do well in your career, this is 100% wrong. It has nothing to do with what you do in uni. To me, right now, what I did in uni was just a passport. It's just for me to get this piece of paper. And I have to apologize to my dad here because he paid a lot of money for something that I consider useless nowadays. But unfortunately, it's really about what you learn afterwards. So, in the field of AI, the suggestion I would give to everybody is you have to continue learning every single week because AI advances every single week. It's not something you learn and you just stop and that's it, and you just enter the workforce and you just you depend 100% on the knowledge that you already had. No, if you do not continue learning every single week in the field of AI, you're gonna end up knowing nothing. You're gonna end up with multiple people, multiple new graduates, multiple new people who just entered the field knowing much more than you do.
Hmm.
Because I'll give you the simplest example. When I started 4 years ago, Gen AI was not a thing. Then as I started like, getting promoted and going up like into like the senior level, I think back in like 2022, we started seeing the rise of ChatGPT. We started knowing that there's something called generative AI, although theoretically it existed, like the technology behind it, the transformers, that kind of stuff, it existed, but it never had it never had this hype, and that's why people did not, maybe research wise, they did not invest in it that much. But when it became a hype because OpenAI made a product out of it like ChatGPT and people interacted with it and saw that, wow, this is like magical, they're like, at that point a shift happened in the industry where nowadays billions and trillions of dollars is being pumped into AI, into servers, into infrastructure, everything related to generative AI. So that switch, like the moral of what I'm saying, sometimes I lose my point, but the moral of what I'm saying right now is that when I started in 2020, Gen AI was not a thing. It became a thing 2 years after. So if I was a person who would just depend on what I studied or the knowledge that I had before, I would be a failure today, to be honest. Or like maybe I would leave my company, they would fire me. But when Gen AI came out, I had to study Gen AI. I had to see what is Gen AI about. I had to take courses once again online Up until today, I still take courses, by the way. New information comes out, I have to take a course.
I do follow you on LinkedIn, and I see how you
Certifications, yeah.
really share your certifications because it's never enough and it's always everly
I know, but
changing.
that's because partners and CEOs of companies, they really like seeing certifications. I don't believe 100%, but
It's the strategy then.
it's more about the knowledge. It's really more about the knowledge. You have to update yourself every single week.
I see. One more, another question, Hamza. I would really love your perspective on. Now, people who did not have the luxury of luck while they were at university and studied random things. So, who studied engineering and continued engineering, who did politics, who did language, who did art, who did teaching, who did blah, 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 blah. Now, everyone's seeing the rise of AI and how shiny it is financially, lucratively. It just looks so shiny and everybody wants to be a part of it. Great. What would your advice be to a person who is completely out of the field of AI, working as an engineer, working as a teacher, working as whatever they may be, but they feel like they are losing out and they feel that they want to be part of this and they're already senior in their level or in their age, say they're 30 years old, they're 31. So they're meant to be quite senior in their career, but they know that this is not what they like doing and they want to do something else, which is AI related. They have the stigma of starting from scratch. So I couldn't find a better person because I was asked to ask you this question than you because you already overcame this stigma. What would you tell them?
Look, to be honest, I'll be very, very, very straightforward. I think nowadays, with the rise of AI and the level that we reach today, there is no escaping the fact that you have to educate yourself. Everybody out there, non AI related, they have to take a course and educate themselves, even the basics of what AI is. They have to. And
Love it. Where? From where? Because there's so many different resources. What would you advise? Something
online,
practical.
it's everywhere. There's an abundance of resources online. You do not
So
need to
do we
go to
just
a
go,
building
what
called
is
a
AI?
university to learn that.
So do we just say, what is AI? Any course about what is AI? Do we start there?
Go
Or
to the well-known sources, for example, like go to Coursera, go to Udemy, take those courses. Even if you go to YouTube, you'll find good courses. Take the recent ones. Don't go like something like very old because honestly, even if there is a video that teaches you about like generative AI on YouTube that was uploaded a year ago, today very very outdated.
oh my
Okay,
goodness.
so
Okay.
again, go to the well-known websites like Coursera, Udemy, buy a course and try to educate yourself knowing what AI is. I don't know if you've seen it yourself, but nowadays governments are even forcing AI into the curriculum at schools. So now you cannot actually, in China and in the US, it's part of primary school. You have to learn programming and you have to take something related to AI and just to educate yourself because the future is all AI. And one of the things that I advise people in other fields like engineering and doctors and all of that to do is not only to take courses in AI, but to also try to research out there how can AI or how can Gen AI or agentic AI help them do better in their fields as well. They don't have to be left behind. Nowadays, Gen AI, like some people have this idea that Gen AI will take over our jobs or AI in general, but it really doesn't have to. Why don't you make it your weapon instead? Learn about AI, use AI in your field. It can make engineering better, it can make medicine better as a doctor. We've already seen this a lot nowadays. It doesn't have to kill your job, it can make your job even better. Like today, as a data scientist in my field nowadays at work, Gen AI is helping me do my job 70 to 80% more efficiently. As a matter of fact, when I started as an intern, I used to write code from scratch, 100%. And starting a year ago, I think I never actually wrote code from scratch. I never do this nowadays. No one would ever write code from scratch. You would just vibe code it.
Obsolete. Exactly. Everyone vibe code right now.
Yeah,
Wow. Oh, well, this is crazy because one of the things that quite appears to me is the quote or the saying that revolves around AI doesn't necessarily need to replace your job and so that you would hate it, but it would replace those who are not AI enabled.
exactly.
So would you agree with that quote?
Yeah, 100%. I think you've put it perfectly, actually.
So it's just being AI enabled, regardless of your career, regardless of your discipline. AI could literally tap into whatever trajectory and help you expedite or make it more efficient. Now let's peek a little bit about more. Let's
By the way, let's give an example here. yourself, for example, you're into public coaching, you're a public speaker. How
Yeah.
can Gen AI help you, for example? I'm asking you a question.
Okay, that's a very good question. So it helps me a lot. Oh my goodness. I look back in the days when I started my company and how I used to write down the modules and the learning plan, the learning lessons and the plans and the objectives myself on a PowerPoint. My goodness, now things are ridiculously basically, Hamza, what I learned is everything I was doing is obsolete today. What AI is helping me do is focus further on the creativity aspect, to think of new neural ways to make AI think for me. So now it's stupid if I were to come up with a presentation and spend 30 minutes or an hour about confidence, the confidence code. AI, do this, or let alone Gamma.ai. I'm quite sure you're aware of that. Do that, pay the subscription, and you're set in less than a minute. But today, I'm focused on how can I actually prompt the AI in a way that would allow me to extract a lot more hidden value that would put me apart in the market. This
Exactly.
is
Funny enough, it's a job on its own nowadays. Prompt engineering is a
yeah,
thing.
engineering. It's crazy. I mean, I'll be honest with you as well. You are one of my guests, which I'm very happy to have here. But a friend of mine helped me very, 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 very well because he's into Gen AI. And you told me that. I actually took a screenshot of your message when you said, hey, nice form, by the way, which was done by Google Apps Script. He is very new slash experienced, if I may say, into vibe coding and what have you. So he's like our Apparino. He's like our new go-to guy on if there's anything AI related. So he did this in literally 15 minutes. I remember 5 years ago, if I were to hire a company to do a form like that, as professional as it is with embedded links to get the Calendly button or what have you, I would pay and I would be happy paying this. Now it was done for free while sipping a cup of coffee, 15 minutes, voila.
Absolutely. Another example, I'll give you another example as well, like also part of what I do in my company. So when Gen AI came out, especially vibe coding, and it became really, really powerful, one of the things that I never used to do, I never actually studied it, which was front end engineering. So front end engineering is totally different than data science or machine learning or whatever that we do on Python because it requires a different skill set, different languages. It's all about, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It's totally different. So in order for you to build a web page or a web app or something like that, you would need to hire a front end engineer and also a back end engineer if you want to connect it to some databases or make it like interactive. Nowadays, I don't need the back end engineer. I do not need the front end engineer. I can vibe code an entire web app, which is something I've done like in my company as well. Like I've vibe coded an entire product that screens CVs. And this is a web app that I built that HR today in our company globally are using. It's completely vibe coded. But of course, like look, also I cannot I do not want to simplify it and say that, it's just 5-10 minutes. You say, please build me this and that, and it happens. You need to know the basics, you need to know the foundations. You cannot act as a back-end engineer if you don't know how back-end actually works, how to connect to databases, how to even JavaScript, how the functionality actually works. You cannot just vibe code it and think that it's gonna work because
For a layman like myself to understand what you've developed, is it something like the ATS system? The
yes,
ATS, is it something like that?
yes, exactly,
Where it screens, which screens is what's it called?
exactly.
And tells you shortlists, whatever, and
Yep,
tells you, hey, this is what you should focus on.
yep. Which you have companies usually that would sell such a service and you would pay lots of money for.
Yes, yes. I mean, while we're at it, I know a friend of mine who has a managerial role at an international school. And this person was frustrated by the system, the way they build report cards, the way they take the grades of the students, and the way they fill up the attendance of the students on a daily basis. So from his frustration, him acting as a managerial role in the school, he learned vibe coding and he used it for his very own advantage. And he came up with a system entirely efficient that would allow to automate report cards just by teachers' input into the system. He would automate attendance. He would also automate through. There was another beautiful thing he shared was how you could use Notebook LLM, Google Notebook
Yeah,
LLM,
yeah,
telling Google the names of the students, and it would compose an entire video, Hamza, which
yeah.
actually the students and their names with their characteristics. How accustomed that was. So that to me was like a breakthrough. By the way, his name is Muhammad Ayman. In case you guys want to hire him later on, well, I would be more than happy to pass his CV. But he's really amazing at what he's doing.
By the way,
So
this is why I keep saying that like AI is advancing almost every single hour, man. Because what you just mentioned, Notebook LM as a product from Google, and the video overview feature that you spoke about, this was also recent. It came out maybe like 6, 7. Like every single day, you have something new. To be honest, you have new products. I think one thing that I should mention right now is the text to video models that we see nowadays, like Sora and Vio, which is the hype nowadays. Everybody is using them, and you generate things that sometimes are really very difficult to distinguish from reality. Which brings us to the harms of AI, but I'm not gonna get into that topic because today you can produce images that are almost like extremely real, like the Google models, for example. But anyways,
okay, one question, Hamza, and I hope you're not going to be biased with that answer. Is AI a bubble waiting for a
no,
burst?
no, I don't think
Why so?
a bubble in what aspect that at some point is just gonna burst and you're never gonna hear about it, or what do you mean? Because
Probably,
of
yeah.
course I would say the hype of AI nowadays is like at a peak. At some point it will go down or balance itself out because you have new generations that are coming out that are accustomed to AI existing. So imagine all of the new generations that are currently growing up. They're growing up knowing that ChatGPT exists. They know that generative AI exists. They know that there are models that produce images and videos, unlike us who had to live through that journey of discovering these things. So that's why I say this hype will die out at some point because it's not as magical. It would not look as magical as it was for us. Which, again, if you want to give an example, maybe to the even older generations like our dads, maybe when the phone came out,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
the wireless phone, which was like a huge and massive, for them that must have been like magical. Like imagine wirelessly in the middle of nowhere speaking to someone without a cable. So this was the magic for them. For us, the magic is AI. For the newer
Yeah.
generation, I don't know what the magic would be. At that point, AI wouldn't be as hyped as it is today. But will it burst completely? Like if this is what you mean by a bubble that is gonna burst and die out, absolutely not.
Hmm.
It's gonna
But
keep
so
getting advanced.
you believe we're in a stage of euphoria by
Yeah,
which everyone's focused, everyone's invested, everyone's all
yes,
over. Phase is going to plateau for a period of time where AI is going to be the hot thing and something else is going to take over the bandwagon, something of that sort.
yes, yes, yes.
Do you have any guesses? Something BI, CI? I don't know. Like
What
something
comes
else?
next? I already know. Like consumer robotics. This is the next hype.
Whoa. Whoa. I need to Google that. What on earth is this?
There are so many companies out there. For example, there's a company called Figure. Figure is a
Okay.
company that is now focusing on manufacturing and producing robots, not for a commercial purpose, but for you as a consumer at home. So Figure is a company. Another company is like the product, the robot is called Neo. I forgot about the company name, but Neo is also one of these like consumer robots that would help you at home. And funny enough, as we speak, Neo started selling the robot to people. It's now open for you to order. You can go online, you can customize your Neo, different colors, and then you can get your Neo shipped to you at home. Neo is a robot that would help you at home do the dishes, like cook, clean, all of that, like better than a wife.
Speaking of Neo and what have you, I've been seeing a video going viral quite recently, especially in the UAE. I have no idea whether I should believe it or not, but I have no better person to ask but yourself since you live there. This place where it's like this machine by the road where people just with afros put their head inside and all of a
No,
sudden
no, it's AI, man.
because how do you differentiate now? It's like that's crazy.
It's definitely AI.
That's AI, right? But do you see us going there? Like, would that be a reality one day? No barbers anymore?
I can never say no, man. To be honest, I can never say no to anything because why would I say no? Again, if you ask someone 100 years ago, would you ever imagine a device that allows you to speak to people wirelessly? You'll say, well, like, what kind of dreams are you thinking about? Or like a car or like a plane. Every time we advance, there's something new, and your mind can never comprehend it up until we reach it. So now for me, the next thing, and it was enabled by the fact that everybody started investing in AI and LLMs, is this consumer robot that would just Like in 10 years or 20 years, in my opinion, this is going to be something in everybody's home. You're going to be cool if you have this robot at home. Kids will speak about it. It's like, do you guys have this robot at home? Because we do. So this will be a robot that would help you do your house chores and all of that.
Being a senior manager at your place at the moment, if you could change one thing about how organizations approach data and AI, what would it be?
It's a very chat
Not a
GPT.
political
That's
question.
very,
Not a political question. I don't
very
know if you
I
you
don't know.
complete you complete the fifth.
Because it depends on what organization, like it depends on the organization, because tech companies is a thing, but consultancies is a totally different thing. Like consultancies, they apply AI more than than innovating and creating new stuff with AI, while tech companies or giants like Google, Microsoft, all of these people, they invest and they create new stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like I cannot give a. I don't know what kind of answer I can give, to be honest. Maybe if you simplify the question.
Let me use it probably let me segue into maybe a more clearer question. Since you're in the Gulf at the moment and investments are being competitive on where the investments go, and specifically the UAE is such an international hub for so many different things, so let alone AI. How is the Gulf region uniquely positioned for AI adoption compared to other parts of the world?
To be honest, I mean, one thing that the Gulf countries has is money, like an abundance of money. But things always reach the Gulf region or the Middle Eastern region way after like the West comes up with it. Like this is one thing, like when they come up with like the AI advances, generative AI, LLMs, that kind of stuff, who started doing that first? It was the West. And then we adopt. They innovate, we adopt. They innovate, we adopt. We spend money to adopt, but they innovate. They spend money to innovate. And now the shift that is, to be honest, I'm seeing it's a very good shift that is happening in our region. Saudi Arabia, for example, and the UAE are pumping billions of dollars in order to start innovating themselves. So, for example, there's a company that nowadays came out in Saudi. It's called Humane. Humane is a company that's supposed to be competing with the likes of like OpenAI, Anthropic, and those companies. So now instead of just adopting, why not innovate as well? So they created LLMs. Let's create our own LLMs as well. What do we need? We need the infra. They're starting to invest in the infra. So they're building clusters of compute, and like in the UAE, they invested billions to build the actual infra that is needed for that. And funny enough, like it's a collaboration where also OpenAI is helping build that in the UAE. But all of that eventually will help us in our region, like Saudi and the UAE, to innovate at some point. We can create our own stuff. It doesn't. We don't have to follow anymore. Like this thing of the West innovating and we adopting and following. In my opinion, soon enough, this will not be the case. We will start innovating because our education has become really, really good. Our openness to open AI is very good as well. We have the means, the substance, like the money to actually invest in such an infra, and we have the skill set. The skill set is there. We do not need to hire and buy that skill set from the West like we've always used to do. We actually have it homegrown nowadays. Because again, it's a new field and everybody is studying it. You do not need like special skill set. You can learn. You can become even better than people in the West. I don't want to make it a fight like between the West and our region, but I would love to see our region innovating because we've lived through long periods of us just adopting and
And
then.
follow
But I can gladly say that I'm seeing a huge shift that is happening in our region, especially when it comes to AI.
and especially coming from someone like you who's into the nitty-gritty details of the business, that's something very, very enlightening to hear, especially coming from a source like yourself. So thank you for sharing that. Hamza, one question that has been coming up a lot recently as well, and I really want your 2 cents in, for layman people, the normal people, whom their AI exposure is ChatGPT, is Gemini, is, all these guys. There's a debate now coming up saying people are getting way too used to use AI or use ChatGPT, and they're using it on autopilot. So literally, like, just my wife just sent me this text. How can I respond to that? I see this quite frequently, and people talk about it lavishly as like they're proud of it because, hey, I save time. To the point that I work in a place where if my people send me an email that I believe is ChatGPT, I will not give it attention. Nowadays, I appreciate spelling mistakes. Nowadays, I appreciate no hyphens. Nowadays, I appreciate run-on sentences. Now, I just appreciate how human you are. But I
You
don't
know, the
appreciate.
scary part is that you used to be able to detect that it was ChatGPT, but as it
Yes,
advance every single time with new models, now you can never tell.
there you go. So
Especially with
what
images and videos that are being produced using AI nowadays.
I just told you, I thought the barber thing was real. And that's the first thing you know. I'm a little aware of things. I hope so. But once again, people who are getting way too accustomed and codependent on AI, where do you draw the line, Hamza, for it to be a healthy relationship while as well still using your brains?
Look, it's a very good question, and I know that it's the debate of everybody to the point that I even think multiple people also saw this study that they did where they compared
Freedom.
scan of the brain, yeah, exactly, between someone who's just dependent on ChatGPT and someone who just does not use it at all, and you can see that the person who's not using it like has a more, I don't want to say a functional brain, because the other guy is functioning as well. But I mean, you can tell that there are harms of using it a lot. Like you're starting to not use your brain that much. And at the end of the day, the brain is like an engine. If you don't use it as much, it's gonna start rusting. To be honest, it's not gonna be the same as it was before. And for that reason, I believe I truly believe that at some point, like we're gonna start discovering this in the future, but being more dependent on AI and something like ChatGPT will lead us to deteriorate cognitively faster than before. So if you have like a line where like
It's very
as you grow up, maybe if you hit the age of 60, 65, 70, cognitively you would start going down because there's a peak in life. You start like cognition is like maybe at zero, you start growing up, it peaks at some point, maybe you're 30s, 40s, and then it will start deteriorating as you grow older. I feel like the point where it will start deteriorating now would be earlier because of the fact that we're not using it as much. Like cognitively, we're not using our brains that much. We are using tools and substance to actually help us think. Like those things nowadays, ChatGPT and Gemini, they help us think. They help us do our job. They help us almost do everything. Like I use it every day.
likewise.
I never write everything myself. Every time I want to write something, I use ChatGPT to write it. The ChatGPT writes my emails. ChatGPT helped me fill the form that you sent me before this. It just helps you come up with ideas. Look, I'm not saying it's a completely terrible thing. Like if it's something that helps you be better, yes, use it. Why not? But I don't feel like I have the perfect answer to tell you where to draw the line because I'm not sure. I'm not gonna force myself to say, you know what, this time I'm gonna write the email. I'm not gonna let ChatGPT write it because why would I think like that? If ChatGPT writes it better
Exactly.
and easier and faster, خلاص I'll use. So maybe because in that particular aspect of like writing an email or writing something, I'm now used to something else rather than my own brain to write it. Maybe I need to start engaging my brain in other things where I didn't used to engage my brain. So perhaps in order to keep it alive, I don't know, read something, start reading books, start doing some those mental exercises, those apps that you see on your phone. I don't know, it's like very generic, but maybe substitute. If you used to use your brain in a like a 70% measure, for example, and ChatGPT has dropped that percentage to 40% of how much you used to use your brain, substitute it with something else. Because instead of removing ChatGPT completely, which helps me, I don't think the solution is removing ChatGPT because I'm using my brain less. No, keep it, but maybe engage my brain in other things. Substitute.
More or less. Yeah, regulates. Hamza, are you aware of Google ex CEO Mo Gaudat? He's an Egyptian American who was
Google X CEO,
a Google ex CEO is an Egyptian American called Mo Gaudat. He had
wasn't it just Larry and Eric?
so apparently Google X happens to be. I never knew that Google X even existed. All I know is Google ever since I was a young baby, right? But then I came across this podcast while AI has been a hot topic. Mo Gaudat happens to be the CEO of Google X, ex CEO. He left off quite recently. This is where I guess, or at least what he says, it's
Google X, not Google.
not Google X, Google X.
Okay.
So I guess Google X was the kitchen where all the good stuff happening today was being built. Only Larry, Mo, even Sam Altman, all these big guys were in the same area discussing all these things together. So he came up with a very nice observation about when he was being asked about AI. I want to get your opinion about it. It's quite debatable, which is he was speaking about how AI is giving you answers from what it's being fed over gazillion number of people in a very short period of time. And he was speaking about our own values. You know, when you ask ChatGPT a question related to your marriage, related to your emotional mess, or related to prayer, or related to Judaism, or related to Christianity, whatever it is, right? Open topic. The way it answers is always westernized, or it's always the way it's been fed because of the amount of people who fed it that way. He was saying that if the way you talk to your GBT is crystallized within your own values, it actually reprograms it into a way that makes it understand that there's a group of people aware of 1, 2, 3, 4 and want to be dealt in a certain way without harnessing or without moving or playing around with these values, the values that we've been raised around. So, how true or how effective is that just by every person starting and programming their GBT, if they're using their own GBT, to, hey, please respect these values and talk to me from that lens? Does that make a domino effect by which, like, if I do this, you do this, they do this, ChatGPT will actually redefine the way it's programmed?
Look, there's like an important point to mention here, like as a piece of information. So ChatGPT is a model at the end of the day. It's an LLM. So, like, for example, GPT-5 is a model, right? And the foundational model is a huge neural network with maybe billions or trillions of parameters. It's a closed model, so we don't know how many, but it's trained on data, massive amounts of data. And this data comes from multiple different sources, like maybe Wikipedia, books, multiple things that sometimes are even scraped from all over the place. And like you said, because at the end of the day, OpenAI is an American company, so the data that they get or that they train their model with is mostly from the Western region. Like, it's not, they wouldn't focus as much as on the like Arabic content or our region's content, like in the Middle East. It's mostly English content and it's mostly that region, like not even French, German, Chinese, whatever. So, of course, the end result of that model will be something that is more biased towards everything that it learned about from that content that it learned about, like the Western kind of content rather than ours. Because, man, like behind all of that magic that you see from ChatGPT, it's really just simple. It's a model that has trained on material, trained on data, and it answers your questions based on everything that it trained on. This is if you do not switch on something like the web search, where it starts getting data from outside what it trained on. Okay, so if you just depend on getting an answer from the LLM from what it was trained on, without web search, without retrieval engines where it gets retrieves from different like documents, then it's just what it trained on, the material, the actual original data that it trained on, which might be biased, to be honest, because you never know. And that's
Right.
why the different models, like when Anthropic has Claude and like Mistral in France, or even DeepSeek, the Chinese model, everything will give you a different answer because they are trained on different material, trained on different data. But one thing that you can do nowadays is that you can personalize the GPT. So today, for example, when you go onto ChatGPT, if you have an account, especially if you have a Plus subscription, the way GPT would answer your question would not be same as the way GPT would answer my question. Like it's personalized per user. Because nowadays there is the memory element, so it learns who you are. It knows a lot of stuff about you. It remembers stuff about you. You can tell it not to remember that, but by default it will remember things that to remember things about you throughout every single conversation. And number two, which is the more recent feature as well, is that it learns from all of your past chats or conversations that you had with it as well. So now when it answers your question, it also refers back to all of the chat history, which is massive. Like
Crazy.
imagine talking to a human being who remembers every conversation you talked about.
It's scary.
Oh, yeah, so that's why every ChatGPT that every user deals with nowadays is different, is a different version. Like it would answer the question differently. Like I see sometimes, like I ask it a question and then it would tell me, based on the fact that you're a data scientist in Dubai and blah, 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 I would recommend like something. Okay, so personalization or like hyper personalization as well within all of the LLM domains.
For
Yeah,
personalization.
it's something. When it all started, it was the same model for everybody, the same answers for everybody. But nowadays, there is the memory element that remembers traits about you. There is the chat history element, which refers to all of the chat history that you had spoken about before to answer a question. So you can start seeing, by the way, like back to the original question that you were asking, you can start seeing a shift in the way that GPT would answer your question.
Yes.
Especially if I want into, yeah, like a very like into a topic that is very like like heated topic or debatable nowadays. Like if I ask something about Palestine, or if I ask something about Islam, if I want to define what terrorism is, maybe in the Western ideology it would link that to Islam or whatever. But maybe nowadays, if I ask my own chat GPT, because it knows who I am, where I live, it knows my religion, it knows my traits, it knows everything about me, it will never give me such an answer. It will give me an answer based on, and this is also a problem, by the way, it will give me an answer based on what I want to hear,
So
not
that's
based on what actually is the truth, because it will not think for you, man. It's an AI.
it's like it
I think you've
performs a
seen, yeah,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I think you've seen online multiple times about people like when you ask something, when you ask ChatGPT something and it gives you an answer, and then you would respond saying to ChatGPT, "No, I think you're wrong," and then ChatGPT would be like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was wrong."
Yes, yes, yeah.
It just always agree. It always agrees with you. It's agreeable. It's like within its personality.
Uh-huh. They feel this. Hamza, I know you're such a busy person, and I took a lot of your time, which is something so kind of you. We have not planned that the podcast would go for 38 or 36 more minutes, over an hour. So I'm truly grateful because I personally learned a lot and your story just resonates so much. I would just simply end with one very simple statement. I would want to give you for any closing remarks for imagine youth, imagine parents, imagine whoever it is that was watching you, heard everything you said, and wants to walk away with one message. What would be your message? And once again, thank you so much. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, to be honest, and I never imagined that I would speak that much. I went really deep into topics, but I finally like the fact that someone wants to hear my story, and I really want to share it with people for one reason, and this is the sentence that I'm gonna give as a closing remark, because I feel like many people would relate to what I'm about to say. But
Awesome.
seriously, nothing that you do in your past defines who you're gonna be. Like university does not define my intelligence. If I fail at uni, if I drop out of uni, that's not because I'm dumb or I'm stupid or I have some like cognitive problems. It's just maybe it wasn't right for me. It's just what I studied maybe was bad. I just did not feel like it. But it does not define my intelligence. And also, more like most importantly, it will not define whether I'm gonna be successful in my future or not. Because in my case, when I graduated at the age of 25 or 26 almost, I never imagined in my life that at the age of 30, where I am today, I'd be a senior manager in the company I am today in Dubai, or earning the amount of money that I'm earning today. I would have never imagined this future when I was failing at uni when I was young. I felt depressed, I felt lost, I felt like that's it, I do not have a future. So like the 23-year-old me would have never imagined that the 30-year-old guy would be a senior manager, earning that much money, being that successful. So really, the lesson here, or the moral of the story is, whatever you do will never define who you are. It doesn't define your intelligence. It doesn't define whether you're gonna be successful or not in the future. Don't let like university or people around you, like the noise again, disappoint you or make you think that you're not really worth it. You're not gonna be successful. It's really never the case. I hope like I kind of explained it the right
Yeah.
way.
You have. Once again, such inspirational. And to me, it's personal because I lived a lot of these moments with you and I could relate to a lot of things you're saying. And me now talking to you 5 years, 6 years fast forward, it's like a dream come true. It's like, wow, I'm so happy, so proud of you, and so happy to have you as a friend. And I truly wish you keep on unlocking these frontiers. And you never know. You never know. One day I will be very proud. I am already that I got this guy on my podcast. So yeah, beat that. So yeah, thank you,
To be
Hamza.
honest, one thing I never imagined
Yeah,
is seeing you in Vietnam out of all places.
that's a different story
Like
for another.
you being as successful as you are right now is definitely something I imagined. You always had that in you. And of course, I'm proud. I've been proud ever since uni. You found success back in uni, unlike myself. I found it later. But honestly, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Always a pleasure speaking to you. And I wish you the best of luck and success in this whole AE Talks journey that you're currently doing. I hope it becomes like a big, massive thing, and I hope it brings inspiration to people. Actually, that's the like biggest goal. So thanks, man.
Thank you, ya Hamza. You have a good one.